Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Appreciate you all joining us here and obviously throughout the afternoon. If you've been here watching the show, we've been continuing our coverage of what has been going on at Portland State, including the clearing out of the library this morning. We've got Ezra Kaplan with us, which certainly if you were watching our earlier newscasts, you saw Ezra down there live on the scene.
Just got back.
Just got back from there. So, you know, let's go through a little bit of this as far as what happened and what you saw down there. So the operation, I believe, started around 6 a.m.
That's right. Yeah. Now, this had been building up for several days. There had been talk about, you know, bringing the Portland Police Bureau into the campus. And we also found out, I believe it was earlier today, that the Portland Police Bureau had actually had a plan to go in a couple days ago and kind of break it all down. They had abandoned that plan, and I can't remember exactly what the reason was, but they thought there might be a chance to de-escalate it, you know, in a different way through negotiation. That never came to fruition. So this morning, around 6 a.m., they started going in and clearing out the library, the encampment that had been built up. You know, and so our reporters were there, they were capturing it. I was actually here on a completely different story and ended up going down to help out with the coverage. And once I got down there, they had kind of gotten towards the end of clearing out the library itself. They had kind of worked their way through. They told us, you know, the officer, or the Portland Police Bureau let us know that they encountered a lot of barricades within the building. We know from one of our reporters who managed to get into the library last night, we saw a video of a lot of the walls, you know, spray paint and graffiti kind of all over the walls. And so they were able to clear that out. At one point during that process, actually a group of folks kind of all of a sudden appeared at the front of the library and made a run for it. As the officers were clearing out that building. And so it was a little bit of a chaotic scene. Yeah, you can see it here right on your screen. And you know, at least one of those protesters was stopped by officers who were kind of on a more outer perimeter.
Ran into the police.
Yeah. And it honestly, it kind of reminds me of an old strategy that used to be used on the southern border, where you gather up a whole bunch of people, make a run for it, kind of thinking
somebody's going to make it through.
You know, they can't catch us all, and that kind of was the vibe that was there as those folks made a run for it. You know, later on in the day, the Portland Police Bureau, as well as some other city officials, made it clear that they had pictures or images of folks who had been inside of the library during the encampment and had stayed after the order was given to leave, and so we're told that they're under arrest. And so for some of those folks who may have run away, they did say that we have photos, we will be trying to pursue those folks, and so there may still be people that maybe weren't arrested today but could still be arrested in the context of the encampment based on their presence there, even if they weren't caught in the act per se.
Right.
So, you know, once I got down there, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of folks who were there, some current students, some former students, even a couple neighbors who had come down because, you know, by the time I got there, it was hard to miss. It was quite a large gathering. You know, what ended up happening is as that encampment was being broken down by the police, community members, other students, various folks started gathering around the library, protesting and demonstrating, having their voices heard, having you know, lots of chants, everything from, you know, let them go free to free Palestine. It was really those were the kind of the themes was the demands for ceasefire that was kind of at the core of it, and then also some anti-police rhetoric of, you know, let our friends go, let the folks who were occupying that library go. And then you know, there were some ebbs and flows and things moved around, but eventually it stabilized down on that, what is it? So the southwest corner, just outside of the library. The police basically kind of set up that corner saying, this is the boundary. You can't get any closer to the library than this. And the protesters gathered kind of around that corner. And when I left 30 minutes ago, that's where it stood, and it had been there for several hours. And so really where it is now is that they have significant police presence, holding a line, protesters still having their voices heard, chanting, protesting. But one of the things that we've talked to the PPB about before, and they have shared with us, is that they're always looking for de-escalation. And one of the tools in de-escalation is time, right? And so it seems to me, from being there and watching, that that's kind of the strategy that's going on right now. They have taken back the library. That was their #1 mission. That's been accomplished. Now that they've got these protesters outside, they are in a place where it's okay for them to just let these protesters do their thing as long as they kind of hold that line. And I think what the PPB is anticipating is that given enough time, that may lose some of its steam, that may peter out, and they can perhaps disperse people at a later time without any conflict or escalations.
And we had Connor McCarthy on earlier. He's still down there.
He is.
And he had some live footage of that showing the line that you're exactly describing. It was hard to tell exactly how many protesters are down there. Do you have any idea of
It
numbers?
varied. I would say a couple hundred probably.
Oh, okay, that's a significant amount.
At first it was a couple. Once I left, it was probably closer to 100. It did vary depending on the time. And I'll say, as time went on, it did start to thin out. And so that tactic, I guess, of using time as a de-escalation tool did seem to be working to a certain level.
Okay, so that's definitely, and actually another thing too, earlier we're talking to retired LAPD Captain Brian Bixler about those de-escalation tactics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, time being one of those things, if time and communication or just waiting.
Right,
if you can hold the line like that, to see what happens. One thing, I would love to hear some more about, and I think is really interesting, is hearing the actual thoughts of people down there.
Yeah.
Because I know you were interviewing people, students, bystanders. What was, did you get any kind of general consensus on what was going on, or was it a pretty divided feeling?
It's pretty diverse. I think by and large, the folks who are down there, unsurprisingly, are aligned with the folks in the encampment in terms of their agenda regarding being, wanting a ceasefire, being, pro-Palestinian. Many of the folks I talked to had not been very active in that. They may have supported tacitly or passively, but they weren't necessarily involved in it. One of the things that really brought people out to the street today was the presence of the police. And so many of them told me that they had experienced the whole process, the whole encampment, everything, as a very peaceful demonstration, and that the only time that it felt like it escalated past being peaceful was when the police actually arrived to break up the encampment. And so that was something that was a pretty common thread that we heard from folks. We also heard from students who were frustrated with the disruption of their campus. But by and large, and there is going to be some self-selection bias here of who's going to show up.
Right.
Everybody there was on the philosophical or the principled side of the original encampment folks in terms of their message of demanding a ceasefire in Gaza.
So I think that's really interesting. Did you talk to any of the students as far as? I know Connor mentioned that he talked to one student. I don't know if this was on the air or off the air, but talking about the frustration of not being able to get into the library because of the fact that finals are coming, the quarter's ending.
Yeah.
Any kind of sense on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beyond the library, the whole campus has been shut down for 4 days now. And so there was a lot of frustration around that. I will say the folks who were frustrated with that really did delineate between frustration with that and still supporting the cause that these folks who had established this encampment were standing behind. And so, I think they were frustrated on both sides.
Right.
It just goes to show, I mean, it's a really complicated issue, and, I think that was expressed in some of the folks I talked to.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot to figure out here too, and just in the coming days, with the protesters that are down there, we'll see what happens with that. We were talking about that de-escalation tactic, but also figuring out what happened in that library, and you got to wonder how long that's going to take to reopen, because I believe the PSU president said they just don't know yet.
They don't. Yeah. And one of the things that we saw while we were down there is at a certain point, we saw them starting to bring plywood in, and we watched as they started boarding up the front of the library, which is primarily all like large glass windows kind of on that first floor. So they were bringing plywood in, starting to board it up, something that's unfortunately quite a familiar sight, especially following protests, not just in Portland, but around the country. And so we know from what what PSU has told us is that that library is not going to be able to reopen until they're able to go in and make sure that it's safe for occupying, right?
Yeah.
One of the concerns being, our safety infrastructure is damaged, whether that be sprinkler systems, fire alarms, exit doors. They have to go in and make sure that it's habitable for people to go in and start using it again. So it's pretty clear
fire
that
department in there. You need all kinds of people.
I can't even imagine they're going to have to do a whole
process.
lot of stuff before they can reopen that to their students. And so, as we were leaving, we saw them doing that. And meanwhile, kind of another team was dismantling the barricades and everything that had been put up. And as they did so, you could kind of see behind where the barricades had been, and it was just a lot of. There's just an enormous amount of graffiti.
Yeah.
There's lots of messaging, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we had some of that footage here. I just had it pulled up. I was sampling through some things, but the officers, this is them going into
Right,
the
so
building.
this is from PPB.
Yeah.
They shared this as they were clearing the video, or clearing the building, trying to get the protesters out.
There's some
making
examples of that
arrests.
graffiti.
Yeah, so this is all inside of the building. It was also on the outside of the building as well. And one of the things that one of the former students who I spoke to told me was that before the police came in, that she said it had been a very peaceful environment inside of the library.
Really?
That they had dedicated study areas, that they had all kinds of infrastructure for people to build community, and they said that they had. I guess that it was just really peaceful.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't until the police came. Now, that being said, it was peaceful, but they also had been told to leave.
Yeah.
And so, these are some views that we're seeing inside of what was described as, a peaceful place. So
I know that we've seen some footage too where they had a first aid section set up, and people were bringing in donations of that and food and all kinds of supplies as well. So that's again some of the footage in there. There was the one other thing here too I did want to pull up that the police did share some of these things.
Right.
We spoke to Brian Bixler about this. The paint, he said, is a very common tactic.
Yeah.
Because of those shields, throw paint on it, so it makes it difficult to see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that was, quite honestly. Wear underclothes. And then we have some paint balloons right there, and then also that flower with some kind of bearing in there.
it's like ball bearings.
Ball
steel
bearings,
ball
yeah.
bearings of some sort.
Yeah, which he mentioned could be, to make it so you would fall or slip.
Yeah.
Or hard to say exactly, but certainly some things were prepared there for police entering the building. It doesn't look like those were used, as far as we know. So
Right.
that element of surprise may have.
Who knows?
that.
We don't have a lot of knowledge about their tactics or what they were planning to do. The only thing that we really saw is that as kind of that group left the library, as the police were making arrests, they did have kind of homemade shields, and it was they were slices of a like a large Rubbermaid trash can.
Yeah.
That they had put some blocks of wood and handles on, and those were kind of littered around afterwards. But they,
They'd been
getting
preparing.
creative, and
Yeah.
they absolutely had been preparing for
Helmets on.
whatever it might have come to, and this
Yeah.
at the end is what it came to.
Yeah.
Luckily, we haven't heard. I don't think any reports of serious injuries, and.
Yeah, I believe so far that we know there was a couple of minor
I've heard a couple
injuries.
minor injuries.
A police officer was sprayed with a fire extinguisher.
extinguisher,
Yeah, and that person was
But
arrested.
yeah, and from what I understand, I don't think anybody was even had to be evaluated or taken to a hospital or anything like that.
So okay,
Yeah.
so that's in the end that's a good thing
so,
in that aspect.
Anytime that you're forcibly removing people from a place, that's a violent act. But I think we can look at this and take away that nobody got hurt. And that's whether you agree or disagree with the outcome or the original cause. It's always ideal that nobody gets hurt.
Absolutely. So that's that's certainly something to take away from there, that nobody was hurt. Well, yeah, a lot is going to be going on this. And we do have, there was a press conference involving a number of city officials, and I've got some things here that I can recap on that. I know you're probably busy if you need to get back to work.
I got some more things to do.
You got a few other things on your plate right now. But Ezra, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Anything
else that you think that you would want to share just about that experience down there and that?
No, I think just, I think where it stands now, while it's out on the street, it really does feel like people have been given space to protest and have their voices heard. I'm hopeful that will continue to resolve peacefully, and we'll be watching to see kind of what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ezra, thank you.
Absolutely.
Let you get back to it,
No
and
worries.
appreciate your input. So for everybody watching, we're going to continue on here. I'll just show a little bit of footage, and I'm going to pull up some things regarding the press conference that happened. So we'll go through a few things of that, and so let's take a look here. So this was the press conference from earlier today, where we had a number of people from the police department, from Portland State University. You had the mayor joining, and we've got a few quotes that I was going to go ahead and just go through of some key takeaways from that. We've talked about some of the situation, obviously, the 12 arrested. We've gone through that, 12 people arrested. Of those 12 arrested, 8 are believed not to be students. So 4 students, 8 were not students. 2 minor injuries from that. So again, recapping some of the stuff that Ezra was talking about, that's a big point right there, that the majority were not students that were inside of the library. They're at the end anyway. Both the Portland Police and the Oregon State Police were involved in the operation. They said the goal now is to get it secured, and PSU is working on that. As we mentioned, there is the active, protesters that are down there right now, and that's not live footage of that, by the way. We'll be able to get something of that, but that sounds like the police have created a line. This is outside. There are protesters down there, but it's at a bit of a standpoint as of right now. Looking through some of the other quotes here from Mayor Ted Wheeler. So this is a bit of a long quote, but Ted Wheeler did say this, and this is a quote from the press conference. "I, for the life of me, do not understand how terrorizing local business operators can possibly impact events in the Middle East. If you believe that by damaging a business, which frankly harms the frontline employees who work in those businesses, we have reports that they were frightened, that they were traumatized. If you believe damaging those businesses or trashing a library on a university campus will impact events in the Middle East, then you are delusional. What we need to do is come together as a community, protest peacefully for those who choose to protest, and not engage in these rampant acts of criminal destruction and violence. Criminal destruction and violence is not protest. It is criminal activity, plainly and simply, and we are here today to tell you that we will hold those accountable to the fullest extent of the law to the degree we can." That is Mayor Ted Wheeler at the press conference earlier. This was around noon when that was released, talking about the protest and his thoughts on that. So some pretty stark language right there. We're going to take a look here at just some of the other things. Okay, sorry, that's a different issue right there, but we'll go to this one. Again, showing some of the footage from earlier, not live. I want to keep on highlighting some of these quotes. So DA Mike Schmidt, this is something that we've seen a lot of talk about. Here is what he said. Quote, "I condemn these criminal acts," unquote. He also said, quote, "We will prosecute these cases. We'll use every tool at our disposal to make sure people are held accountable," unquote. So that is what he is saying, is that they do intend to do that. When it comes to President Cudd from Portland State University, she said, "The Portland Police Bureau has done an amazing job, and I'm so grateful." She also said, "It is tragic that some of our students, along with others from outside, have so badly damaged our library and taken away that essential learning space." And that was a quote again from Ann Cudd, who is president of Portland State University. So this is where we're at right now. With those arrests, the police did say that they're going to be possibly pursuing others. So there may have been some people who got out of the building that were not arrested. As Ezra was just saying, our reporter, that the police did say that they have pictures of those people, so they will be pursuing that. So we'll have to await to find out what happens on that end. But this is, again, this is where we're at right now. So looking at some of this past footage, and we will see where that goes. One other thing Well, this is we don't know if this is related, but this was brought up at the press conference. So we do not know if this is related, and the police did say they didn't know if it was related, but it did happen around last night. There were some police cars at a training facility that were set ablaze. I believe it was 14 or 15 cars set ablaze that did burn at this facility. Chief Day was asked about this. He said he doesn't have anything tying the two together, but obviously this is an ongoing investigation to see what happened with this. So they're still making some determinations there. He said he was aware that the timing of it does, could time into what's happening there at Portland State. But as of at least earlier today, as of the press conference, they didn't have a way to tie those two together. Just something else that did happen last night. And we had a big statement from Governor Kotek about that. So again, we've been bringing you all the coverage that we can of this and keeping you up to date on the information. This is Fox 12 Now. This is our live streaming show here. So I'm here every weekday, and we're able to do these kinds of things and do deeper dives and have our reporters on and provide coverage of all kinds of things really on this show. But breaking news specifically, we're here to get that to you as quick as we can. I think right now we've covered quite a bit. We're going to continue to see if we can gather some more experts or any other things that come up. I would imagine more information is going to be coming out here throughout the day. Whether that happens in the next couple of hours, we'll have to see. And otherwise, our 4 p.m. news coverage, we'll have the rest. Connor is down there right now, and Paulina, I believe, is down there or was down there, Ezra. So we've got reporters down there covering this and letting you know what's happening. KPTV.com has the recap of everything that we just talked about as well. So we've got all the details there. And if you want to find out more about that press conference, it was a very long press conference. I would say it was a half hour or more with everybody speaking during that. A lot more details on that. So this is one thing Mayor Ted Wheeler said, all parties were unified in their response. So, and also this was something that was echoed throughout this, that they said no one is declaring victory. So Ted Wheeler said that, Chief Day said that to that extent. So we'll have to see where this all goes, and clearly more to come, more to learn about this, and we'll bring that to you as soon as we get it. So we'll sign off for right now. And again, kptv.com, stay tuned right there. And whatever platform you're watching on, if there's more breaking news here throughout the afternoon, I'll be back on that. So just pay attention to your phone or your computer. You'll get an alert, and I'll join you and share whatever it is that we find out. But signing off right now, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12.